Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I appreciate you joining me today. UPS this past week announced 20,000 job layoffs, roughly 4% of their workforce, and 73 facility shutdowns. Now, the public sentiment was due to three reasons: reduced Amazon deliveries, tariffs, and margin pressure. Margin pressure is the one going under the radar because it's the least sexy, but I want to pinpoint this because it is due to the livable wage movement, due to ESG, and bad union contracts. And I have other case studies in recent history that are going to showcase this in this video to show that you should be focused on advocating for a value-based economy, not a livable wage-based economy, because that is what drives everything up and puts you more at risk as an employee than if you are focused on a value-based economy. So, without further ado, let's dive in. So like I said, last week, UPS announced they're laying off about 20,000 jobs, which is roughly 4% of their overall workforce. And they are saying that it's because of Amazon reduced deliveries and because of the tariff deals, but it's actually really due to the margin compression. And so you have to just think about this in any given common sense way, where what you're really looking at is if you are selling a water bottle here, right, for $100 and you're selling that and it costs you $90 to make. You are only making $10 of revenue. How much risk can you absorb for market shifts, labor shifts, supply chain issues, right? Pretty little when you have a 10% margin. And a lot of businesses function on even less. But what if you had a 50% margin? So you sell it for $100, you're making $50, and then there's a market shift in supply chain. You still are making plenty enough revenue that you can then figure out how to adapt and allocate your resources, both money and personnel, without having to incur a bunch of negativity in terms of laying off people. You can take the time to upskill them, reskill them, and pivot them into a place that is going to be more valuable. Hence why I'm saying we need to be focused on a value-based economy from the employee perspective. This is the only way that you can be safe. So what we have to do is dive a little bit deeper here. And let's go back to 2023. UPS made a deal with the Teamsters that made it to where the average full-time employee at UPS made over $100,000 a year. You heard that right. The truck drivers, the people in their offices, in their delivery warehouses, the average full-time employee. Now that means there's people that are less and there's people that are more. But when you make the average income six figures, that drives up the costs significantly. And even they came out and said that their overall margin compression from this deal alone was a 35% margin loss. So if they were sitting there, and again, we'll use this analogy of the $90. So it costs you 90, you're selling something for 100, so you have $10, so you have a 10% margin. Imagine you lost another 35% on that. So you went from 10% to 6.5%. Or if we use that 50% scenario, you went from a 50% margin to now, add another 15, 17-ish percent. So you reduced down to a 33% margin. This is huge from a profitability perspective. Again, simple numbers there. You went from making $10 per bottle to $6.5 per bottle, or $50 per bottle to $33 per bottle. Okay. And this is on one decision, one bad deal. Okay. And that's not factoring in the other union mandates that are coming in at union fees and partnerships and benefits that they have to provide and all of these things. And this was being under pressure of the livable wage movement. And this is something that was celebrated like crazy back in 2023. Look at it now. They couldn't absorb market risk. And now 20,000 people are going to be out of a job because of it. Okay. And this is not the only case study in recent history where, due to rising wage costs, it either means to preserve margins, everything for us is more expensive, or it means that the company has to absorb risk in the form of layoffs. And this is why companies are seeking automation, AI, and robotics in order to replace their workforce. Is because if you were actually paid based on the value, you would be competitive with a lot of the current technology and automation tools out there. But when you have a $100,000 employee on average at UPS to do some of these entry-level nothingness jobs, you're going to get replaced as soon as you can because that $100,000 is just in pure cash. That's not factoring in benefits. That's not factoring in time off. That's not factoring in anything else. So their actual average FTE cost is probably closer to 150, maybe 175 when you factor in the union requirements and everything else on top of it and the benefits. Okay, so this is what allowed them. So, yes, there might be the first layer of saying, hey, Amazon is expecting less deliveries. We're going to be reducing business by mid 2026. Or, hey, tariffs are causing less shipments from coming in. And so this is going to cause it. But you could absorb that if you had the 35% greater margin. And this is insane that people are sitting here and just stopping at the political level of saying, oh, well, it's all Trump's fault. He's the reason these 20,000 jobs are lost. And it's like, no, it's because UPS caved to public sentiment of saying that everybody deserves a quote unquote livable wage. And not everybody does deserve a livable wage. You deserve a value-based wage. If you are only providing $50,000 in value, you don't deserve more than $50,000. What does this mean for you as an employee? Upskill, figure out how you can add value, learn new technologies, go back to school, get certifications, learn AI skills. This is what we preach as career coaches, myself and everyone else included, right? This is what happens when you force companies to subtract from their margins and their profits arbitrarily for your feelings and you don't live in the reality of business ownership. Is that great? We had a 2-year celebration of people making more money. And now we just had a 20,000 job loss because of it. But they're not the only one. Okay. So let's look at some other ones here. So Wayfair has had 3 years of consecutive wage loss of layoffs. Okay. They laid off in August 2022, January 2023, January 2024, January 2025, and March 2025. And what do you think is happening here? Is it the rise in wage? It is to some degree. Because what did they do instead? The one in January 2025 was because they left the German market. Well, why did they leave the German market? Because of increased taxes, because of increased unionization, increased requirements of pay without a change in profits or margins. So they just said, boom, we're out. Done. So everybody that was here in the US supporting that German market, gone. March 2025, January 2024, the other 4 rounds of layoffs were seeking automation and technology role cuts. Well, guess what? How do you outpace technology being cheaper and faster and stronger than you? By being value-based, by learning new skills, by upskilling yourself, by learning to use these technologies yourselves, by working with your business and going, hey, what technologies are we looking at adopting to increase our efficiency, and getting ahead of that and having those discussions and learning it. So 3 years of consecutive layoffs, with the most recent one being within the last 60 days. This isn't changing. Okay. So then let's look at the next one, which is actually going to be HP. Okay. HP just did another round of layoffs, 2,500 employees, 5% of their workforce. What did they say as to why that's happening? Margin compression. What is happening to cause the margin compression? Increased wages unnecessarily, arbitrarily. Again, another company that was caving to the public sentiment of livable wage. And so they directly cited, we are doing this for cost savings. And while we now have to incur a one-time severance package, the one-time severance package is cheaper than continually reoccurring cost based on FTEs. Again, we are appeasing the temporary public sentiment for technology automation because we believe, or some people believe, that you deserve a livable wage just for your existence and it's not based off of your value. But when a company hits hard times, they now can't absorb the risk of something changing or a supply chain issue and instead have to resort to firing people. It is all only temporary when you do this. And lastly, let's look at Amazon. They have been doing ongoing round robin layoffs, again, for 3 years consecutively since 2022. And what have they publicly said that it's because? Automation and AI. in order to streamline their operation, reduce their cost, and provide a more consistent value driving effort. That is what they have publicly said. I just picked these really at random because they are recent. Okay. But if you really look at all of the layoffs that have been happening, it is because companies have been forced due to public sentiment, prior government sentiment, whatever it might be, in order to either make a decision. You must compress your margins or put that upon the consumer and reduce your overall revenue. It's one of the two because you can't do both. So instead of pissing off customers overnight by having a 20% hike, or in UPS's case, a 35% hike, they take it out of their margin. And then when there's a remote curveball, they now can't absorb it. And the only way that they can really save money is by cutting labor. And this is what I want to get you to realize is I know that this is 10 minutes of doom and gloom and seemingly unnecessariness, but this is to help you position yourself to understanding where market dynamics are going. Okay. You need to outpace the AI and automation growth by learning these things alongside your career. So again, if you are frontline manufacturing, literally on the assembly line, like putting things together, or if you're a technician managing, the actual robotics as a part of the assembly, right? You need to be having these conversations with your company about where are you looking to go? Where is the next piece of equipment that you're looking to do? What is the next cost savings? What is the next technology? Like, stay ahead of that game, having that technology in play and in your wheelhouse and working with them to stay ahead. Because that's the thing is, obviously only to have this conversation with the company if you like your company, right? But if it's a place where you want to stay, in order to not be surprised and just cut out the knees when it comes to these layoffs, what you need to do is spark up these conversations and spark them now. You need to be going to your manager and saying, hey, I'm seeing all around a lot of margin compression, a lot of technology innovation, automation. What is our company doing in regards to this? Are we planning to adopt anything? What is coming down the pike? And a lot of times you might have a little bit of hesitation because the company might be trying to protect themselves or think that you're coming at it from, that it's a negative thing. And then that's where, if you have a little bit of hesitation, you can say, look, like, I'm only asking because I love the company. I love the mission and I want to stay ahead of it. I want to be a part of this adoption. I think we should be adopting these technologies and I want to be a part of that. And I want to be a part of upskilling our workforce and reskilling our workforce and putting us in a position that at the second we adopt these, they're in full force and use, right? Build that train of momentum. And then when you have that conversation, you have a positive response, take that to your colleagues and coworkers. Now you're exhibiting leadership. Now you're getting people on board and you're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy of awesomeness. Okay. That is the fundamental thing that I want to get across here is, for those of you out there that are fighting for this livable wage, stop, because here is 4 case studies between UPS, Wayfair, HP, and Amazon who have had year after year after year after year of cost savings, layoffs, all due to saying, you know what? It's cheaper for me to use AI, automation, and robots than humans. And why is it cheaper to do that? Because the humans themselves have not chosen to upskill and instead fought for more wages without providing more value. That is the fundamental flaw. Stop asking for more money without providing more value. End of story. So if you have any questions or anything, leave this in the comment below. Today's video is pretty short. I think it was fairly straightforward. I have previous videos, which I will link in the description, about the most in-demand skills, where things are going. Watch my Q1 2025 video about kind of wrapping up there as to what the most laid off jobs were, what the most in-demand jobs are. I have a variety of content around this. Okay. So upskill yourself, reskill yourself, dedicate at a minimum an hour a week. If you can, try to do an hour a day, right? Build it into your workday. Get so good at your job that you can do an hour a day on the clock. Get paid to upskill yourself through a Udemy or Coursera or some sort of online, things like that. Okay. Give yourself that benefit. Skill stack, invest in you. Okay. Continue it year over year over year, and week after week after week. And you will be shocked at how fast you outpace this and how safe you are. from these layoffs, because you are working with your company, not against them, to adopt these things in a way and prepare the workforce to use them and make that company better. All right. Again, if you like this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button to the channel and the notification bell. Leave a comment below. I respond to every single one. Check the track record. And I am live on Instagram, X, LinkedIn, and also School, which I will have linked below, which School is going to have some exclusive access to some master classes that I am building. So if you are looking for how to progress your career and maybe not having to pay the expense of the one-on-one scenario, be prepared for these. Are going to be launching here soon. Very, very excited about the master classes that will tell you everything you need to know about how to progress your career from start to finish. So thank you again for joining. If you have feedback on the content, also leave that in the comments down below. And until next time, thank you.